Okay, I've been thoroughly examining We Happy Few for its plot, and it really sucked me in. And as such, I'm going to talk huge spoilers for this one little thing that, when it popped up, at first I thought it was brilliant, but then, when I actually really genuinely thought about it, I started to scratch my head and go, wait a minute, that's not right. So, here's the premise behind the video game We Happy Few. The town of Wellington Wells had the Germans roll in with their tanks, and they were making the townsfolk give up their children to be shipped off on trains, and people didn't want to remember how easily they rolled over. So, they took joy. It's a powerful hallucinogenic drug designed to help them forget and to stay happy, because happiness is a choice. But here's the thing. Those tanks, they were made of papier-mache. Yes, the stuff you'd use in school to make arts and crafts, they used that to make the tanks outside the town. The Germans were faking it. The tanks were fake. And yet, somehow, the British Army there didn't try to fight back one iota. Nobody fired a single cannon. Nobody tried to launch a single bomb at the tanks. Nobody even tried to spy things out until the game's events themselves happen. Nobody bothered to check to see if everything was on the up and up. Nobody tried to sabotage them. Okay, fine. Let's buy the idea that the British Army just rolls over and doesn't do anything at all out of the fear that they would lose. Let's say they were just too afraid of the immense civilian casualties that might come from the fight. Let's say that is believable. Okay, fine. Let's go with that. I can almost buy that.
The tanks, they're made of papier-mache.
But I absolutely cannot and will not buy the papier-mache tank for one simple reason.
Did you know they were fake?
Of course not.
And I know what some of you are thinking when I bring up the papier-mache stuff.
You were the general
You might
secretary.
be thinking, now wait a minute.
You must
There's
have known.
historical precedence for this. Didn't Britain at some point do something similar? Well, you're right.
And everyone else's case.
There is actually some historical precedence, but see, here's the thing, and here's why they're not the same. Some of you might be thinking that, now wait a minute, what about the 23 Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army? Yes, that's true. The Allies did try to impersonate this big military unit to try and deceive the enemy and put on a big show before D-Day when they landed in France. And that included stuff like inflatable tanks and sound trucks and fake radio transmissions and stuff like that. And yes, the tanks did look very convincing. They also created dummy airfields and troop bivouacs and motor pools and artillery batteries and tank formations all within the span of a few hours. It helped that a lot of the people in this unit were artists. They got recruited from the best art schools in New York and Philadelphia. So you could make the argument that this is just sort of being inspired by that. Like, oh, well, hey, they made inflatable tanks. Why would the Germans not use papier-mache tanks? Okay, now, I get where you're coming from. I get that. And initially, I thought this was a clever idea. But then I actually genuinely thought about it. Here's the problem. You expect me to believe that in England, jolly old Great Britain, papier-mache tanks would be able to just lie about outside an English village and not get rained on and be turned into soggy pulp, thus destroying the whole scheme? It's England! It rains all the time! They even make a joke about how it's raining so much in England in the game at the epilogue. And even during the near end of the game, where the main broadcaster guy, Jack, is making a joke like, "Oh, it's England, you know how it rains so much, but you just gotta wait 5 minutes for the bright, shiny sun to pop out." So, you can't even make the excuse of, well, maybe it doesn't rain anymore because the Germans had some weather machine or something. You expect me to buy there was no rain? You expect me to buy that in all of the time the tanks were out there, they never got rained on? They would have been out there for days as the town and the military debated on what to do, then arranged for the kids to get on the trains to Germany. It would have taken weeks, most likely. And all of this was in an open military base for everybody to see. It's not like it was in some big enclosed space where it could be protected by the elements. You expect me to buy the idea that it didn't rain in all that time, thus exposing the tanks for the lie that they were? And I know what some of you are going to be thinking. I really, really do. You're going to make the argument that, well, maybe they waterproofed the papier-mâché tanks. After all, that's possible, right? Well, in the modern age, we have the know-how to do that, because that sort of stuff requires polyurethane. But that chemical wasn't available for widespread use until the 1950s, after the war. Not to mention the fact that, here's the thing, for very expensive types of paper, for very sturdy types of paper, you could maybe waterproof it well enough so that the elements wouldn't damage it. But it's not just moisture that's papier-mâché's biggest enemy. Oh no, it's sunlight. All of that combined is going to make it degrade very, very fast. Again, it would turn to soggy pulp. And the main character you first play as, Arthur Hastings, when he discovers the true nature of the tanks, outright says that the tanks are just newspapers and glue.
If I can make it back to Ollie alive,
Newspapers and glue.
How would I have known
There's
that?
no
For
proof.
fuck's sake, Artie, times
tanks
are
were
hard, but you and I go
waterproofed.
back a ways.
The tanks.
Nothing.
Hollow, Ollie.
What's that?
You seriously
Tank on.
expect me to buy
Tanks, they're made of
that this
papier-mâché.
happened? That they would get away
We
with
could
this?
have bought them if they didn't really have tanks.
No!
No. We wouldn't have
No!
given Lucy and the others.
Deep Wang!
We wouldn't have had to lock
Ah!
them.